Rajasthan. He has over 38 years of experience, of teaching experience, as well as conducting research and extensive activities in the field of new and renewable energy sources, particularly small and large scale capacity biogas plants installation and commissioning. Professor Sharma is recently nominated as an expert member in the National New Biogas Plant Appraisal and Evaluation Committee, constituted by the Honorable Minister, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India. So I'm handing over the session to him, and he will be discussing on the current status and the future potential of commercial scale biogas plants in SARC member states. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I think I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible, but if you can speak a bit louder, that it will be more.
Okay, I'll try to be bit louder. So I welcome all the participants to this online capacity building training program of SARC professionals on commercial scale biogas plants.
Professor Sharma, can you make it full view, please?
Sure, yes. So, as far as the contents of this presentation is concerned, we'll be just talking about the global scenario of biogas potential, and then the biogas, how it affects the greenhouse gas emission reduction, what are the waste resources available for biogas, and then the status of biogas program in the SARC member states, or the status of biogas potential, particularly in the SARC member states, and biogas in India, and some case studies in India and Nepal. So when we talk about the biogas market, we usually come across the size of the biogas systems, and we take three different categories for this. One is the small scale digesters for biogas production, which is generally used at a domestic level, at individual level, and is restricted to almost about say 25 cubic meters of biogas production per day capacity. Then for a larger scale, we say that we have the option of going for medium scale digesters, that is normally utilized for electricity generation through the biogas that is produced from these units, or even we can also think of utilizing in a mixed mode for the purpose of electricity generation, as well as for meeting the heat energy requirement and the cooling energy requirements. So that we can term as the tri-generation. Large scale digesters, when we talk about these digesters, which are also the commercial scale digesters, they are used for generating the gaseous fuel that can be utilized for driving the transport vehicles as the vehicle fuel, or even whatever the biomethane that is generated, it can be used for cooking through injecting in national gas grids. So these options are available as far as the biogas market is concerned. Here we have the different resources, but not many types of biomass resources are available with us, which can be utilized for the purpose of generation of biogas and the commercial scale biogas plants. Plenty of agricultural crops and residues that are available from the agro crops, they constitute a part of the biomass sources for biogas generation. On the other hand, we do have forestry crops and residues, the sewage, the industrial residues, animal residues, and the municipal solid waste. These are the different types of residues which have enormous potential, and that could be tapped for biomethanation, or we can say for anaerobic decomposition by way of generating biogas and then having the multiple uses of that biogas. When we talk about these resources, all these resources are available either from the livestock or from the pigs or poultry, food waste, crop residues, municipal solid waste, sewage. As the global scenario goes, almost about 1.5 billion heads of livestock population is available, which have an annual growth rate of 0.6%, and from each cattle head, the manure production is to the tune of about 16 tons per year. That manual production is also very important for us, and the biogas yield is about 40 to 60 cubic meters per annum. Similarly, pig waste, it has a large potential as far as the population is concerned and as far as the biogas yield is concerned. So with almost about 680 million heads of pig worldwide, each can generate about 25 to 35 cubic meters per ton of the waste material, biogas, and the annual growth rate is almost equally 0.5% is considered. Poultry droppings, though this poultry droppings, almost 26 billion population, has the potential of generating 60 to 80 cubic meter per ton of the poultry waste through anaerobic digestion, and the growth rate is higher, 1.5% for this. Similarly, the sewage, 7.6 million liters of sewage, producing about 18 to 26 liter per head per day of biogas and food waste, and also we have the crop residue and the municipal solid waste. So all these resources are abundantly available, and we are all worried about how to dispose of these waste material in an eco-friendly manner so that it becomes a wealth. It can produce energy. It can also provide us with organic manure and can assist us in maintaining or for environmental protection. So altogether, when we talk about this livestock, piggery and poultry waste, these resources has the potential of generating about 250 to 370 billion cubic meter of biomethane as far as the fuel is concerned. And if we want to consider its electrical energy generation power capacity, it can generate about 2,600 to 3,800 terawatt hours of electrical power. This electricity is sufficient to meet the demand of somewhere around 330 to 490 million people, and has the potential to meet entire energy requirement that goes into the world agricultural processes through replacement of the conventional fuel resources, whatever is being put into world agriculture for different operations, and that consists of maybe through electricity or coal or the fuel oil, LPG, gasoline, and power irrigation energy. So 100% of the energy requirement can be met with the help of the electricity that is generated from livestock, piggery, and poultry waste. It has the potential. The sewage, on the other hand, can also generate a large amount of biomethane, or can generate 210 to 300 terawatt hours of electrical energy, which can be put into our national grid system. So this anaerobic digestion, as you have already made aware about it, is a very natural process, and we have to take the technology in such a manner that the output, that is the fuel output and the fertilizer output, they are all very important output, and they have to be utilized with full potential. That is most important. The potential is there, the technology is there, and we have to adopt that technology to tap the potential in order to get the biogas as a fuel resource and digested slurry as an organic manure, and the environment would be maintained. Environment, when we talk about environment, we generally refer to how much carbon emissions are checked to go into the environment. Emission reduction potential. Livestock itself, livestock farming itself generates about 15% of the all greenhouse gas emissions. It contributes to 15%, that is 7.1 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Different processes are there which contributes to this GHG emissions under the livestock farming, maybe due to the enteric emissions, or maybe because of the emissions from manure management, production of animal fodder, energy used on farms, manure spread on soils, and emissions from fertilizers used for the production of feed. So these activities we have to carry on. We cannot replace the activities, but we can always reduce the emissions that are coming out from these activities, so as the most volatile carbon is not allowed to go into the environment, which is captured as biogas elimination methane emissions. By collecting and anaerobically digesting manure from livestock, the potential lies to the tune of about offsetting 930 to 1,260 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year of greenhouse gas emissions, or almost 13 to 18% of the current livestock related emissions can be checked. So this way we not only capture the fuel fertilizer, but we also reduce the emission reduction. We reduce the emissions that are going into the environment in terms of the carbon or the other greenhouse gases. Now I talk about the food waste as a potential source. The food waste in different form, whether it is a cooked food waste or uncooked food waste. we never think of that this much amount of food waste is being thrown. Otherwise, the food has a value, but when excess of the food, either in the form of cooked or uncooked food, is left over, it can generate around 880 to 1100 terawatt hours of energy if all the available food waste that is properly collected and recycled in the commercial biogas plants, anaerobic digestion systems, which is again having a great potential to mitigate 510 to 560 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. 85 to 100 billion cubic meter of biogas can be generated out of this food waste, and the current inorganic fertilizer consumption would be reduced to 2 to 5% with the help of digested material which is available once the food waste is decomposed anaerobically. So this is the another very important resource which is available with us, and as we go on, as the population increases, as the living standard increases, the amount of food waste also is considered to increase in the coming future, and we have to utilize this waste in a proper manner. The next potential lies in the municipal solid waste. Now we are very much worried about how to dispose of the municipal solid waste. Globally, there is a concern that this waste should not be left as such, again to degrade the environment, but otherwise any of the different treatment methods should be utilized. We call it as the one as the thermochemical conversion method, TCCT, thermochemical conversion technique, or BCCT, the biochemical conversion technique. So talking about the biochemical conversion technique, which is nothing but the utilization of the MSW under anaerobic conditions, or in other terms we can say biomethanation, wherein the decomposition of organic matter takes place in the presence of microbes to generate the gaseous fuel, normally we term as the biogas. Many factors are there which we have to take into account so that the optimum gas generation takes place inside the bioreactors, and these parameters may include moisture content of the waste material, organic content, volatile matter, CN ratio, and other physical conditions also. So these chemical and physical conditions, once they are optimized, then the biogas generation process from municipal solid waste, which is large, abundantly available. Now you can always classify, or you can always talk about the composition of this type of municipal solid waste, which is generally consisting of organics, recyclable material, inert material, some solid waste, but as an energy manager, we are mostly concerned about the biodegradable waste, and that biodegradable waste is a large part of this total composition, total part of the MSW. 50% is the biodegradable waste. Recyclable constitutes to about 20%, inert material again 22%, which we say that it cannot be decomposed. Recyclables can always be utilized for reproduction, and the other materials, including the disposable syringe or some biomedical waste, can be categorized as a part of the municipal solid waste, though the biomedical waste is to be collected separately. But from municipal solid waste, which we generally collect from the household also, there also some part of the blood-stained cotton, sanitary napkins and syringes, etc. Constitutes a small part of this total volume. So these solid waste, which are otherwise considered to be a wealth, but due to the ignorance, we do not utilize this in a very befitting manner. That's why there has been a saying from solid waste are the only raw materials we are too stupid to use. We have the great potential of solid waste, and in the coming future also, the solid waste will become a major part of the recyclable or biodegradable waste material for large scale biogas plants. There is nothing more frightful than ignorance in nature, or you do not have waste if you do not make it, is very correct. And whatever amount of waste, as we grow on increasing the amount of waste material, we will left with no other option than to go for more mining, more cutting of trees, more drilling of wells, and thereby producing more amount of waste again and again. So that's why this waste has to be properly recycled. There are many situations in cities and many areas where the major expenditure which is going is on the collection and transportation, and very small part of the funds, less than 5%, is going on the treatment and disposal, which is not a good practice, and that's why the process should be properly tackled. We have enough potential of generating biogas, and when we talk about biogas production from anaerobic decomposition, 1 cubic meter of the biogas is equivalent to 21 megajoules of energy, which can generate about 2 kilowatt hours of electricity, taking into account the generation efficiency equal to about 35%. I now take into account the crop residue. Again, a large part of the crop residue is available as a potential resource for the generation of biogas. Standard energy conversion factors guide us to say that the residues which have conservative moisture content and energy content of the fuels, a theoretical energy potential from residues can be in the range of 17.8 exajoules to 82.3 exajoules. So this suggests that the crop residue that is available from different crops can generate almost about 3,100 to 4,000 terawatt hours of electricity, or if we want to utilize it in terms of the biomethane as a gaseous fuel, 300 to 318 billion cubic meters per year of biomethane is available with us. The electricity generated out of this is sufficient to meet the demand of 5.2 to 6.5% of the world's population. That is equivalent to about 400 to 500 million people. In terms of the carbon mitigation potential, it is equivalent to replacement of 865 to 1100 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. So everything is at a win-win situation for us, whether we talk about the utilization of the energy or the prevention of the carbon emissions into the environment. These type of situations is normally seen in many fields in the agriculture sector, where this waste material, crop residue as a crop residue, is left over, and due to certain local conditions, they are not properly being utilized and are being burnt into the field. I'll take into account the crop residue statistics worldwide, because this is one of the most promising sectors for growth in bioenergy production. As the agriculture productivity is increasing day by day, the resources to the agriculture sector in terms of the hybrid seeds, fertilizers, manure management, they are being provided as very large inputs to increase the productivity, and so the amount of crop residue will also be increasing day by day. The crop residue sector currently contributes less than 3% of the total bioenergy production, whereas the potential is large. If 50% of the residue is collected properly, because rest of the 50% we may think of utilizing for soil quality purposes, the 50% of the residue thus collected from all major crops can generate 4.3 billion tons to 9.4 billion tons of energy annually around the world. And this can also produce energy in the range of about 17.8 exajoules to 82.3 exajoules. The crop residue, mainly a major part of that crop residue, I will show in the coming slides, is available from three main crops, that is maize, rice and wheat. And whatever the energy that we have the potential to generate from the crop residues, it is sufficient to meet the energy requirement of 3 to 14% of the total energy supply which is there worldwide. So great deal of utilizing this crop residue is available globally as well as in the SAARC regions. Here you will find that in the SAARC countries, the disposal methods of crop residue suggest that more than 3/4 of this, about 80 to 85%, is burnt in the fields, and a very small fraction of all these is recycled or utilized by the grazing animals, or is being taken as the fuel resource. So the nature suggests that whatever is being produced from the soil, most of it should again go to the soil, so that the soil fertility, the soil health is maintained, and the crop productivity is increased to meet our increasing demand of food production. It can also replace our conventional fuel, and when we talk about the conventional fuel, that is diesel, there is a potential of reduction in 1 billion barrels of diesel equivalent, or 1.5 into 10 raised to power 15 kilocalories of the energy can be made available from the crop residue worldwide. So, as I told you that maize, rice and wheat, you can see from this chart that out of the almost about 4,000 million tons of residue that is available as a low estimate, and about 10,800 million tons as a high estimate, more than 75% is available from these three major crops: maize, rice and wheat. And as far as the energy content is concerned, from the total low estimate value of 17.1 exajoules, almost about more than 12 exajoules as a low estimate is coming from these three crops. And from 76 exajoules, we can say that about 60 exajoules is coming from these crops, and rest of the smaller, very small proportion is coming from the other crops. So the estimate suggests that if 50% of the total surplus residue which is available, surplus in the sense that whatever is required by the soil strengthening, for the strengthening of the soil, that may go to the soil, part of it may go for the grazing, but there is enormous surplus crop residue available, and it has a great potential of meeting the energy requirement through biomass potential, through biogas generation. Coming to the SAARC member states' surplus residue production potential from all the crops, we can say that the total from these 6-7 countries that I have listed here, total crop production is to the tune of about 980 million tons, out of which total residue production is around about 1200 million tons, and of about 30% of this is the surplus residue production, 370 million tons, which can be very well utilized for our purpose in the commercial scale biogas systems. Power generation potential, when we use this waste material, which is available from wheat or rice straw in different countries, they have the power generation potential. The total production of wheat and rice is available in this chart, in this table, around 300 million tons, and the residue production is 450 million tons. Surplus residue production is about 114 million tons, and total power generation potential is 7,600 megawatts. So naturally, the waste material that is available in India is large, and that's why the total power generation potential is also very high, followed by Bangladesh, Pakistan, and then the rest of the countries. Since crop residue burning, we have to avoid this situation because it generates huge quantity of greenhouse gases, contributing to about 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide, 2.7 kilograms of methane, and other smaller quantities of other gases into the atmosphere. And in situ burning of this majority of the crop residue, this practice should also be discouraged, and it can only be discouraged when there is a very economical proposition for utilizing this waste material in other ways. and that economical proposition lies in our biomethanation process in the large-scale biogas plants. And it would also being increased, this practice is being followed due to shortage of human labor, high hourly rentals of machines to remove the crop residue from the field and take it elsewhere, and also the mechanization that is there for harvesting of crops, where the crop stubbles are left behind, and then removal of these stubbles becomes a very difficult process. The time left in the next crop is very short, normally many times, and that's why the burning in place is practiced by majority of the farmers. So in all, we have talked about these resources, and these resources, if they are properly recycled through the bioconversion technological utilization of our commercial biogas plants, we have a large potential of generation of biogas in SAARC countries. India and Pakistan have a potential of fulfilling 56% of energy demand of the region only through biogas. Whatever the resources are available, and if these resources are utilized for biogas generation, the SAARC countries together have a potential to generate $4 billion per year annual carbon credit when we talk about the clean development mechanism and mitigating the greenhouse gas emissions into the environment, thus earning the carbon certificates. We can generate a good economic value. Also, 600 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year net greenhouse gas emissions can be checked, which is otherwise coming through the chemical fertilizer substitution, animal manure management, firewood and kerosene substitution. So all sort of activities which are utilizing the conventional fuels and fertilizers, there would be less requirement of these conventional fuels and fertilizers, which are contributing to the environmental pollution, if we can utilize the resources that are available for biogas production. Livestock and human population in SAARC countries, human excreta also is one of the very important resource for biogas production that we call as the night soil. So apart from livestock or the pigs and the poultry and other animals, which has a huge potential in Southern Asia, Southeastern Asia. The figures for India are given separately here. So looking to this potential, there is a resource availability and biogas generation potential also, and annual carbon credit potential to the tune of about $4 billion per year, because this carbon credit can be earned with the help of how much carbon dioxide or net greenhouse gas emission mitigation has been achieved. Bioenergy in India, particularly if I talk about, there is a conducive environment for accelerated and growth of bioenergy sector with the help of bioenergy technologies, because primary energy resource the bioenergy contributes 1/4 of the total energy sector, and still a large population, 3/4 of the population still depends on the bioenergy as a primary energy source. There is a vast experience of demonstrating the bioenergy potential, and the country is now taking serious steps to utilize this bioenergy apart from wind and solar energy, so that the different technologies which are there, particularly the biogas production, utilization of improved cook stoves, biomass-based generations, and biodiesel are the different technologies which are available with us to dispose of the bio waste that is available. Agriculture residues in India coming from rice straw or rice husk, jute sticks, wheat straw, and the cattle dung also is a part of this sector. Agro-industrial byproducts like bagasse, molasses, oilseed cakes, sawdust is also biomass resource that is available. And from the forest also, mahua flowers and leaves, tops and other waste material that is coming from the forest plants have a large potential availability and mitigation of the coal equivalent in million tons, or replacement of the coal equivalent in million tons. So you can see here that cattle dung has a large potential which can replace about 130 million tons of coal equivalent by way of generating the biogas. Similarly, there had been studies to check the potential that is there for the year 2024-25, and it has been assumed that about 2.12% of annual growth in the biomass availability is considered. The overall potential in all the SAARC countries lies at many places where there is higher adoption rate for dairy and cattle farms. Now slowly and slowly the open grazing of the cattle is being restricted, and more dairy farms and cattle farms are coming up. So there the potential lies for large scale commercial plants where we have the decentralized resource available, centralized resource available with us in terms of the cattle manure. Anaerobic decomposition is considered to be economically viable on large farms because the management problem is not there, the resource availability problem is not there. Farms that are connected to the electricity grid, on all these places, again there is the potential where we can always produce electricity and connect it to the electricity grid, so that in case the requirement, on-farm requirement of electricity is less, the surplus electricity can be fed into the grid and we can earn the economic benefit out of it. In countries where the farm electricity supply is not very regular, is erratic and unreliable, and we have to check or we have to consider that we should have a proper electricity supply, continuous electricity supply at those places also. This potential lies for the biomethanation plant. There are farms that are exclusively developed for growing feed for animals. And these farms can also be expanded to grow energy crops or crop residues. There, the potential for animal feed as well as the crop residue will be available, and the biogas generation plants can always be set up at such locations. Farms in countries with a specific tariff for energy generated from anaerobic digestion. If this facility is there, then also for a electricity generation tariff which is on a higher side from anaerobic digestion process, there also the economic viability of large scale commercial plants is there. And in the countries where specific schemes exist for promoting biomethanation, there also, in those countries also, the potential lies. And I am sure with the current situation, all the SAARC countries are exploring ways and means to promote the biomethanation process by means of large scale commercial biogas plants. So in all, we can say that bioenergy contributes to about 13% of the total energy in the region, and it has a potential of saving 500 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions by the year 2030. I'll now take up the case study from the two different regions. The PepsiCo plant in Pune is generating about 18 million metric tons of waste per day, and this waste is coming from potato rejects, peels, slices, processed waste, and wastewater sludge. So this becomes the resource for biogas generation. And to have a study about whether these waste material are capable of generating biogas, a small pilot plant was installed earlier. And looking to its success, the plant of about 2000 cubic meter of biogas per day is currently being utilized in this, and 2000 cubic meter of biogas is replacing 140 million tons of metric tons of LPG, which is costing approximately $140 million per annum. The biogas is used directly for kurkure fryer by having a purification process and modifying the burners. So purification process, as you all know, and you will be learning in the subsequent lectures, that the purified biogas gives us larger calorific value, more heat value, and it could be directly utilized as the thermal heat energy source. So this is the picture of this site location, and the different flow chart is being suggested where from the biogas is being used. For feeding system, an automatic online feeding system has been developed, and this is the first of its kind initiative in PepsiCo company, where they are using the screw conveyor and then crushing and then transferring through pump to the biogas digester whatever the feed material is available. This not only saves manpower but has also improved hygienic conditions inside the plant. And the reduction part, again very important thing, is the carbon reduction to the tune of about 600 tons annually because of the reduction in the LPG utilization is recorded. Nepal has also come up with a biogas plant which is the first ever commercially producing bottled CBG, compressed biogas, at Sukroli, Nawalparasi. The company has invested 220 millions to establish the plant, and it is using German technology to produce 2 tons of cooking gas daily. The biogas is produced from cow dung, agriculture waste, food waste, and press mud. And whatever the biogas that is being produced is compressed after purification, and as a byproduct, the company is also getting about 25 tons of organic fertilizer daily from almost about 30 to 40 tons of raw material that they are putting into the this biogas plant. So this is the site picture, and the so with this I come to the concluding slide, that there is enormous potential of different type of resource material, biomass resources, as I have already covered, right from cattle waste to crop residue to kitchen waste to forest residue to agro industrial waste, and many other waste materials which are biologically decomposable and can be utilized in the biogas plants at a larger scale to generate electricity or to generate biogas, which in turn can be converted into electricity or compressed gaseous fuel, and can not only save the conventional energy resources, but will also have a large impact on the environment by means of mitigating the carbon emissions into the environment that is otherwise coming from the conventional energy sources. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and now the session is open for your queries and questions.
Thank you so much, Professor Deepak, for this wonderful presentation. Especially the case study part was really good. Now, what I felt about it. So basically, as mentioned by Professor Deepak Sharma, that we are open for any sort of a discussion, because this is the second section for today, and we end at. And with that, we'll be having a small quiz as well after the Q&A session. That quiz is not to judge anyone or to but rate anyone, but that is for your own, basically, for your own self to see, to for your assessment, that what have you learned from this, from these lectures, basically. So with that, I think I have one question from Mr. Faisal Bashir, which I would like to take. Mr. Faisal